Welcome to California in Focus. I'm Eliana Kernodle, standing in for David Mastio today. Congress is investigating California's $128 billion high-speed rail project, demanding the California High-Speed Rail Authority provide information on the U.S. Department of Transportation's justification for continuing to fund the project. Joining me to tell us more is the Center Square's California reporter, Kenneth Schrupp. Kenneth, for some background, when did this project begin and where is it at in the process?
Hey, Eliana. In 2008, California voters passed a proposition that would approve a funding of a rail line that would connect downtown San Francisco to downtown Los Angeles in just 2 hours and 40 minutes. This, unfortunately, is nowhere near complete. But the good news is environmental clearance of the route is finally done, and we're going to start to see more serious construction on the initial 171 Merced to Bakersfield segment ramping up in the coming years.
And how does this project compare to similar projects?
Well, the U.S. as a whole doesn't really have a very large high-speed rail project to look at, but what we can look at is a more local project built with private funding mostly that would connect Los Angeles to Las Vegas. This Brightline project would cost about $12 billion and carry 11.1 million passengers per year on the 218-mile track. If you look at the cost per expected passenger and per mile, this Merced to Bakersfield public rail section is going to cost about 4 times more per passenger per mile, and it's really unclear why the costs are so high.
So then what are the concerns Congress has about this project and what are they doing about it?
The concerns that they have are that there's a limited amount of funding available for projects across the country. Everybody wants infrastructure built. And even though this initial segment is probably going to be completed, it does have a $7 billion shortfall. About half of that was met by a federal U.S. Department of Transportation grant issued in December for $3.1 billion. But this project, as the California High-Speed Rail Authority's peer review group says, only makes sense in the context of building the entire LA to SF train, which at its price tag of $130 billion doesn't really have a funding mechanism to allow it to be built by the states. So the question that congressmen and senators have is, why is the federal government funding this initial sort of backbone segment when there is no broader plan for the state to fund the rest of the system that this initial segment only makes sense in the context of? The unfunded gap for the high-speed rail project is about $99 billion. And with the state facing a remaining $7 billion deficit for this year and projected multi-billion-dollar deficits moving forward for the next several years as people continue to move out of the state and revenues come in less than expected, it's not clear how we're going to really fund the rest of this gap.
Well, Kenneth, thank you for your insights on this story. Listeners can keep up with this story and more at thecentersquare.com.
He ran for state office and was beaten. Started a business and failed. Ran for Congress and lost. But thankfully, Abraham Lincoln didn't give up. Persistence. Pass it on. From the Foundation for a Better Life at values.com.